Hey, this is Jeremy. Thanks for listening to the podcast. You can check out more great content on threeheadedeagle.com. Also find us on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. New podcasts go live on Saturday, so be sure to subscribe to the weekly podcast on iTunes and Stitcher.
Today's Supreme Court decisions reflect the state of American politics.
The Democratic-controlled Senate has rejected
President
a
Barack
Republican
Obama
proposal
says
to restore
Republicans
funding
were
for
responsible.
research programs. The U.S. government remains partially paralyzed.
It's the battlefield of ideas. Ideas, inspiration, information. Welcome to the Three-Headed Eagle Show.
And we are back. Welcome back to the show, guys. We have a full house tonight, which I'm glad.
Extra full.
Extra full.
Strons is actually here for a change. That's nice.
That is nice. We almost replaced him
We did.
with like an empty chair, and it would have been great.
Would have been like the Clint Eastwood thing. Yeah. So, Strons, how was your weekend?
Great.
Oh, good.
So before we get started, I want to congratulate my brother. He just had a baby boy about 5 minutes ago.
Oh, congratulations, brother. Is that
Ian.
Ian?
Yeah, Ian. You
Oh,
know Ian.
congratulations,
Yeah.
Ian and Larissa.
The little boy James. So congratulations to them.
You didn't even congratulate Larissa. I mean, for crying out loud.
Dude, she just
It seems like
there.
she had some part in that, I think.
No, Larissa's awesome. She's my sister-in-law. She's fantastic. So congratulations to them. But we will now get to the podcast.
The good stuff.
The good stuff. We are lucky tonight. I have a good friend that I've known for a long time. His name's Stuart Opel, and he called in last week. 2 weeks ago? 2 weeks ago. We talked about, we really want to have a good conversation with an intelligent and articulate Trump supporter. And luckily for me...
Well, I don't know about that. But.
Lucky for me, I happen to know one. Stuart has been a friend of mine, like I said, for a long time. So, Jeremy, be nice.
I mean, why you say me be nice? You've been just as mean to the Trump supporters as I have.
That's true. And I did warn him, correct, Stuart?
Sorry?
I did warn you. You're not in friendly waters.
Hey, I will jump in the line and told you.
You are in friendly water, Stuart. I want to tell you that right off the bat, okay? Because I want to convert you with love. No, actually, you know what? For a long time, we've been talking about we wanted to hear somebody's case that could actually make a case, because there are a lot of people, and there's a lot of people on every side of the issue, to be fair. People behind every candidate.
Except for Kasich.
There's nobody behind Kasich.
I don't
That's
know
the
why
problem. I was going to say there's stupid people behind every candidate, but there's no people behind Kasich, so you don't have...
So let's start with a place where we can all agree. Stuart, do you think Kasich should drop from the race?
Oh, I think you should have stopped that a long time ago.
Oh, see? Stuart's smarter already. I like
ground.
him already. Common ground. Good job. Good job. So can you start us off, Stuart? Kick us off by just giving us, your welcome to the Three-Headed Eagle caucus. You are representing Donald Trump. Now convince us all to vote for Donald Trump. What's the reasoning?
Well, my personal reasoning is I was on the fence about Trump for a while. I was actually pretty anti-Trump for a long time, just because of his rhetoric and for the things that he says. Because I don't agree with everything that comes out of his mouth. But I read a couple of his books. I watched a documentary too about him. And he's been successful in business. And when he's not been successful, he's been able to negotiate himself out of the unsuccessful situations that he's been in. Such as the 4 times his companies went into bankruptcy, he negotiated himself out of a big hole and was able to pay off a smaller debt than what he owed. And he has a history of taking really bad projects and turning them into successful ones. The first project that he did with his father, he turned into a $5 million profit. It was an apartment complex, and he flipped it into a $5 million profit. It was a rundown apartment complex. Nobody wanted it, and he flipped it. His father told him basically to stay out of Manhattan completely. So people who say that he got basically all of his... I understand he got a certain amount of money from his father and things like that, but his father was totally anti him getting into anything in Manhattan. and that's where he has most of his money now. And after looking into him, looking into the things that he's done, I started getting closer and closer to supporting him. And what really pushed me over the edge is the Republican Party. The Republican Party actually, with what they're trying to do in trying to get this to a brokered convention. See, I'm okay with it getting naturally to a brokered convention. That's the rules. That's the way it's set up, and I'm okay with that. I'm not okay with the Republican Party trying to get it there and trying to silence the voters and trying to get it so it's in the delegates' hands and not the voters' hands anymore. I'm not okay with that. And so that's what really pushed me over the edge to supporting Trump.
So, okay. And I don't think there's anybody in this room that would disagree that the Republican Party is total crap. Adam?
I vote for total crap.
Total crap. Strong?
Amen.
Okay, so we're totally with you on that. And I feel that, straight up.
Yeah.
Republican Party is total crap. I have...
Totally disenfranchised the Conservative Party.
Yeah.
Would totally miss the mark in their opportunity to be welcoming to more libertarian-minded people. They really have not been paying attention for about 20 years.
Now, you said something interesting, though. You said that they're trying to get it to a brokered convention. Can you tell me, what are you seeing that suggests that they're trying to get it to a brokered convention?
Well, in and of itself, Kasich being in the race is not an attempt by the Republican Party, but an attempt by someone in themselves to try and get it to a brokered convention. Kasich has no other reason to be in the race besides to get it to a brokered convention. And the Republican Party has met secretly, not so secretly, together to try and figure out ways to get this thing to a brokered convention. Congressmen have run negative attack ads on Donald Trump. I don't know if you understood that or not, but at least that's what I've heard from media outlet sources. And when Republican congressmen are running attack ads against the front runner of the Republican primary, I think there's a problem.
Okay. But does that suggest they're trying to get it to a brokered convention, or does it just suggest that they really don't like the front runner of the party right now?
Well, I mean, the RNC chairman has gone on many media outlets and suggested that this thing, he doesn't think any of the three are going to get to the 1237, and he has said many times that he not necessarily wants it to get to a brokered convention, but it's highly likely, and that he is okay with that happening, and that he's pushing for that to happen. So, I mean, in my view, the Republican Party has been trying to push it to a brokered convention, and just things that I've heard with backroom deals and Mitch McConnell promoting Paul Ryan, randomly jumping into the race and being the Republican candidate.
Can we both agree that would totally suck?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, good. More common ground.
Hey,
sorry, keep.
I got a question, Stuart. So, from your perspective, if the Republican Party is doing this, looking for a brokered convention, to what end? Who do you think that they are trying to
Elect?
Yeah, beat Trump. Who is their person? I know you threw out a few names of congressmen running attack ads, and then Mitch McConnell supporting Paul Ryan. But who do you think is their candidate?
Well, right now, I think it's anybody but Trump. And I don't think that they necessarily have anyone in mind. And right now, that's Ted Cruz. I mean, I know he's not an establishment candidate at all. And I think they're plugging their noses, even thinking about backing him. But, I mean, you got Lindsey Graham, Jeb Bush, Mitt Romney saying he's going to vote for him. I mean,
well, Lindsey Graham's whole statement about murdering Ted Cruz on the Senate floor and then holding court on the Senate floor and no one would be convicted. Yeah. I think you're right. And I agree with you in that statement that they don't like Ted Cruz at all. But if the Republican Party is forced to back someone that has clearly been an outsider for the last 4 years, and you also stated that you don't really agree with a lot of the things Trump said in regards to how he says things and And we'll get into more of the details on what he said versus, what might be on his website and all that stuff. We'll get into that more. But why not support a Ted Cruz when it's obvious, and to your own admission, he's been kind of the outsider and has proven to be the outsider fighting against the establishment for the last 4 years?
That's more on personal opinion than principle. I personally don't like some of the things Ted Cruz has done in his campaign. I don't either. With the two scandals that he's undergone, with Ben Carson and with the whole thing about Trump's wife.
Okay.
Both times he says, "I've had nothing to do with it. I had no idea what was going on." So either he's lying about that, or he has very, very poor leadership skills and doesn't know what's going on around him.
Or his super PAC, he's not even allowed to communicate with them legally.
Unless he is, and that's illegal, in which he's dishonest. So the implication would be that, there's been statements by Trump where he's like, yeah, people talk to their super PACs. Well, that's illegal, though. And if Trump is basing the super PAC's actions off of how he's running his campaign, in which he might be communicating with super PACs, then he is basing his premise, his accusation, on his own illegal activity. And that's all hearsay. All that's hearsay. I think the one thing that is more traceable on paper is the Ben Carson incident, right? That's traceable on paper. CNN posts an article about questioning why Ben Carson was headed back to Florida for a weekend and not campaigning. In that, they made accusations to the possibility of him getting out of the race. Ted Cruz repeats those things, and it comes out somehow in the media that Ted Cruz made it up when it's traceable on paper that that's not the case.
Right, but I want to steer us a different direction because Stuart, so if I'm getting you right, you like both Trump and Cruz for their policies maybe, but you disagree with Cruz on some of the more moral, principled, ethical things that you've seen come from his campaign, whether they did or they didn't. It's the appearance that there's some stuff that you don't necessarily agree with on a more moral, ethical level. Is that correct?
For the most part, but I can understand the irony of that statement.
Because that's what I was going to. That's what I was going to ask you. I was going to say, if you, and I'm not trying to get you to like Ted Cruz or whatever. I just want to trying to figure out. Okay, if you see these two candidates and it's kind of down to your own personal, like you said, interest, why does that necessarily even factor in? Considering all the stuff that Trump has said that just makes him look like a total D-bag in many cases. Why doesn't that factor in for you? The stuff from Trump, do you just accept it more because he's just like that all the time and not hiding it? Like what?
It's a fact. All Mexicans coming into the country are rapists and murderers. I mean, that got verified, right? Wait, did that get verified?
I don't think it got verified. Okay. Let him respond to Strauss' comment. Go ahead.
See, I think what you said hit it on the nose. I think it's that Trump doesn't hide it. You know Trump's a D-bag. Okay, I don't think anyone here can dispute that Trump's a D-bag. Trump is a jerk, and I think...
But he's a jerk that gets it done?
He's a jerk that gets it done. And that's my main thing. Is whether it's an intelligent thing for me to say or not, I think I agree more policy-wise with Ted Cruz than I do with Donald Trump. However, I think Trump knows more about how to get things done than I do. And I think Trump would be a better president than I would be. So I'm not going to base my vote solely based on who I agree with more. It's who I think I could get it done better than I could.
Steven,
who I think could get it done to the best job.
Stuart, sorry, not Steven. Sorry. I know who we're talking to. I'm trying out loud. Sorry. Stuart, so you want a guy that's going to get things done in the presidency, right? Is that what I'm hearing?
Absolutely.
Okay. Is the Constitution important to you?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Before we start, Jeremy, I just want to know, Stuart, real
You
quick.
cut off my line of questioning,
I know,
and you know
I know,
I'm a law student.
I know. It's terrible. It's terrible. But more than just supporting Trump, I want to know a little bit of background on Stuart, just in like a minute, if you can, Stuart, on what you think just politically, philosophically about the nature of government and your principles and that kind of stuff, because I want to know where you're coming from.
Okay. I've always believed the government should be run like a business. I've always believed that the smallest government possible is the best way to go. I've always thought that even if the free market and the supply side economics, trickle down economics doesn't work, I think it's the principle of giving people their money to do with what they want, to do with what they please. And I think that it's more principle than policy for me. If taxing the heck out of people and taking from the rich and giving to the poor actually works, which it doesn't, but if it actually works and trickle down economics and supply side economics didn't work, I would still prefer supply side economics just for the fact that the people get to choose what they do with their money. It's more principle with me than it is policy.
Okay.
I think free markets and people getting to choose what they do with their money is the way that the government should be run.
So I'm hearing it seems like a lot of what you're describing, because we have to put you in a nutshell, and it was almost all economic. Is that the big issue for you this time? Or is that always the big issue? I
think right now it's the big issue. I mean, when you have people making 20% less than they normally do, than they have in the last 8 years, and they have before that. I mean, I think the economy is a huge issue. It's the biggest issue right now for me.
Okay.
That's good.
So okay,
I'm glad it's not an irrelevant issue.
Yeah, I mean the
it's
economy
probably
definitely
one of the
should
most
be,
important things.
Yeah, the economy definitely should be a big issue. The economy should be a big issue even when we're in the
Best of
roaring
times.
20s, or
Right.
we're
In the early 90s.
Early 90s. Yeah,
Yeah.
the economy should always be a big issue. When we're in good times, we should be asking what's your policy to keep us here? And when we're in bad times, it's what are you going to do to get the heck out of the way so that we can dig ourselves out of this hole? Although most people will end up asking, what are you going to do to dig us out of this hole? Wrong question.
Agreed. Agreed.
So, but what I was asking you earlier, the Constitution's important to you then?
Absolutely.
Okay, so here's my issue with a lot of what I hear from not just Trump supporters, but people all over, even people that are saying, yeah, I want small government, the Constitution's important to me. I like Ted Cruz, and I think he's the guy to get stuff done, right? But do we elect a president that gets stuff done, constitutionally speaking?
I think we elect a president that can facilitate getting stuff done.
Okay.
I think we elect a president who can have other people in positions where they can get stuff done.
Okay, so he can appoint people. You're talking about his cabinet, or who? What are we talking about?
Well, I think again, it's more principle than policy with me. I think it's a principality of putting people in positions where they can get things done. I think whether it be cabinet members or whether it be people negotiating for us for other countries, I think put people in the right spot. I mean, that's what Reagan did in his first term. In the second term, he didn't do such a great job of putting people in the right spot. But in his first term, he surrounded himself with great people and got things done. And I think that's exactly what, I mean, not to draw this comparison between Trump and Reagan again, but I think that's exactly what Trump will do. I think that's what he's had to do in business, is surround himself with great people, because I think you don't get as successful as he does, as he's been, without surrounding yourself with the right people and putting people in the right spot.
Okay.
You can't do it alone.
So what I'm hearing, you want him to put cabinet members and stuff like that in the right place. But the things that he's talking about, like the build a wall, president doesn't
Okay.
have a power to build a wall on his own, right?
True.
Okay. So, or the get rid of Obamacare. We all know we've seen for the last 2 years that neither the legislature nor the president on their own can get rid of Obamacare, right?
True.
So what you're really saying by get stuff done is that you're thinking Donald Trump is a good leader. He can lead the Senate, lead the House in the right direction. Is that what you're
Absolutely.
thinking? Okay.
Absolutely.
But given the fact that he's obviously hated by his own party, and all the polls are suggesting that he's also hated by the Democrats, how can we say he's going to get anything done?
Well, in the 80s, he was hated by the mayor of New York. The mayor of New York then got behind him for his presidency run in 2000. In 2000, he was going to run for the Reform Party and didn't really, which is what it was, a offshore of the Republican Party. And the mayor of New York in the 80s, I don't remember his name, it's escaping me, was totally anti-Trump, hated his guts, got behind him in the 2000 election. Now, the point I'm trying to make with Trump is he's a good negotiator. People don't necessarily like him, but he gets people to do what they want him to. Just in this campaign alone, the thing with Ted Cruz about being a natural-born citizen, okay? On the surface, it looked like total junk, and it was total junk. Ted Cruz is perfectly qualified to run for president. But because Donald Trump wanted to get it done, there was a hearing, there was a court call, and they made sure that Cruz was qualified to run for president. Every person that's gone up against Trump, and this goes for people who say he can't win in November too, whoever's gone against Trump, one-on-one, including from Jeb Bush to Marco Rubio, has lost all support completely and totally. Now, Jeb Bush had millions and millions of dollars to spend against Trump. People don't remember that Jeb Bush was the front runner for a long time before Trump completely put him in his place. And if that's not a genius with your words,
I don't think that after all 17 candidates had announced, I don't think Jeb Bush ever went above like 8%.
I'm checking.
Well, Jeb Bush was-
real quick.
He was definitely talked about a lot by.
I don't think he pulled very high. Ben Carson definitely pulled higher for a little while, and Carly Fiorina.
I mean, Jeb
pulled
Bush definitely
higher
had.
for a little
Jeb
while.
Bush had a lot of financial support.
Tons. Well, because he had
in the first, in the
Republican
first
elite.
debate, Jeb Bush was standing next to Donald Trump as second. In the first debate in the Reagan Library, Jeb Bush was standing next to Donald Trump as second in the polls.
Okay,
I don't remember that.
I don't remember. I can't speak for. I don't know.
I don't know, but I'll take your word for it. Sounds good.
But he quickly plummeted.
Yeah,
And maybe
Thank goodness he did.
maybe that was Trump who did it. I don't know. Maybe.
I don't know, but we're seeing. So by that thinking, though, everybody that takes on Trump just loses all support. So how come
for the most part.
How come Ted Cruz now is gaining so much momentum?
Well, I think Trump's backing off a lot. I think he's listening to the media. Honestly, I'm not too happy about it. I think he's toning it down as much as possible, and he's had a really tough couple of weeks. I mean, it's really hard to debate that. He's put his foot in his mouth and had a Mitt Romney moment.
It is a tough thing to recover after insulting someone's wife.
So let me shift another time here for it, because we talked about the finance and.
I have one more question about economics, because I think that's an important issue. Trump has frequently talked about essentially heavy tariffs. Do you think that that economic nationalistic principle of heavy tariffs work?
I think he's threatened heavy tariffs. I think that there's a big difference. I think.
Well, what if somebody calls our bluff? China holds all the cards because they hold most of our debt. So what happens when even the budget that he tries to come out with when he can't come up with a budget, actually, because it's the House's responsibility to come up with a budget. But what happens when he puts a major tariff on China and China no longer loans to America?
See, I don't think that's going to happen. See, I don't think that's the thing. One of the points that I'm trying to make is that I don't think I could do it, sit in a room with China. I think China would call it on me and call out my bluff, and then they would not work with the United States again because of the tariffs, because I would be forced to do it. But I think at a negotiating table, I trust Donald Trump.
Okay, but wait.
A good deal.
Okay, so Donald Trump is a good negotiator. You've said that, but you've also said Donald Trump is a total D-bag. Why do you think the rest of the world does not already know that Donald Trump is a total D-bag and has basically written him off?
I don't know that. I guess I'm just trusting that he's gotten things done before. He is, like I said, with the mayor of New York, he's...
Well, you're talking about...
Talking about Bloomberg?
No, Giuliani.
Oh, Giuliani?
Giuliani got back behind him because Giuliani said he could win New York because of unions and the amount of jobs he provides to union members. So when he backed him, he just essentially made the statement he would do well in New York in comparison to other Republicans because he has a lot of union workers working for him.
We're talking about head-to-head against a Democrat? Giuliani thinks he can win New York?
You have to remember, Giuliani was also a very moderate Republican.
Right. I know that.
What's Donald Trump
in New York? In New York, Bloomberg is a Republican. So no, he literally was a member of the Republican
and
Party.
And we are talking about
in New York,
15 years ago.
You're a Republican.
Yeah, okay,
right.
Good
No,
point.
you're right. But I think that should be. I think that is a very interesting statement for somebody like me to be like, oh wow, Giuliani. Though I don't agree with him on a lot of stuff, he seems like a pretty honest guy. I'd look into that, but then it's like, well, he would win because unions would back him.
Oh, so he's going to beat their former senator, Hillary Clinton,
right?
Because she was the senator from freaking New York.
But
that sounds like a dreamland.
And a lot of presidents have won the presidency without winning New York.
This whole
Right.
race is a dreamland.
Yeah, it is kind of.
It's been a dreamland.
It has been pretty crazy. I'm curious because just throughout history, when we've had heavy tariffs, it's always ended in one of two things: economic calamity or war. And I would prefer
Both.
not to. We've had both.
Yeah, I mean, the
the
Great Depression.
In fact,
quickly
one
followed
tariff,
by World War II.
One tariff caused a substantial amount of both.
Right.
We tariffed, and that sent us into the Great Depression because the cost of goods skyrocketed and then plummeted. And we the same tariff, the Smoot-Hawley tariff, included Japan, and it sent, because of our depression, sent Japan into a Great Depression, which pissed them off enough to do Pearl Harbor. So I don't believe in tariffs at all. And the fact that you even threaten them will get people on edge. And the last time we've had a tariff this heavy, even mentioned, was the Smoot-Hawley tariff. And that caused a little bit more destruction than I want to even toy with.
Yeah, like I said, I don't think I could do it, and I don't think the people we have in Washington right now could do it. But I think what Trump says is 100% correct when he says we have basically nut jobs in Washington doing our negotiating for us. And again, Trump will surround himself with the best negotiators in the United States, and I think they'll be able to get it done. I think it's more, like I said, it's not policy for me, it's principle. And it's not specifics, which is, I know would be really, really annoying to be on the other side of debating me, but it's not specifics with me, it's about principle, and it's about who I think will do the best job, who could get it done. And the same thing with Mexico and building the wall. I think it sounds completely ridiculous if I said it. It sounds completely ridiculous
when he says it too. Yeah, you're right.
So
it sounds completely ridiculous when he says it. But I think, and I don't think anyone else could get it done. But from what I've seen from Trump, from what I've read of Trump, from the things that he's been able to get out of before, from the 4 Chapter 11 bankruptcies, I think, it's just my opinion, I think he can do it. I don't know how. I don't want to know how, because then he couldn't do it anymore. But I think he could get it done.
So, Stuart, I want to ask you a couple questions because I'm trying to follow your your thought process here, because I don't know if you've ever listened to the show before, but I have been trying my darndest to find detailed information about Trump and his policies and what he actually thinks will work and what won't work. And a lot of the stuff you see on the internet is people name calling and the gossip and all, and I don't care about any of that. I want to know, what are the principles? What is he actually going to do? And then to that point, what Ted Cruz is going to do, or what John Kasich is going to do, like what any of these people think they're going to do. And what I kind of hear you saying is that like Trump has gotten stuff done. You think that he's a good negotiator. He can go in there and get stuff done. But when it comes to like building the wall, you think he can get it done. But then when he says that he wants to impose heavy taxes and these tariffs on other countries for their imports, you say that he's not going to get that done because he's just threatening it. So then I want to know, like, is he going to get the wall done, or is that just a threat to Mexico? Like, I don't know where he stands, and I don't know if maybe you can clarify what you mean by that. But I want to know, if someone says something, I either want to believe that that's what they say, they're going to do what they say,
Yeah.
or you just can't trust anything they say.
I totally understand. But with the tariffs aren't the end of the game. The tariffs aren't the end all. Getting a good trade done is the end all. The tariffs are a means to an end.
So
The wall, with the wall, he says he's going to get it done. That's the end all.
So with the wall, he said that he's going to be essentially taxing financial transactions between Americans sending money into Mexico, correct?
Mm-hmm.
My question is, how does that incentivize people to work hard in America when the economy is actually doing really well in Mexico? I mean, if you put heavy taxes on people trying to help their family in Mexico and they're working here making more money, then doesn't that incentivize people to go to the economy that's actually picking up and doing fairly well in Mexico City? Wouldn't they just move there, be taxed a little less, and just make more money locally?
Yes.
So then the wall doesn't get built because I guess my question, my main comment and point with that is every time you make any kind of like detrimental policy in regards to productivity, you can't plan for more than just a very short amount of time, a few years at most, before that implementation affects the economy directly and therefore becomes a right decision where you were making money turns to a wrong decision very quickly. Think about Obamacare, for example. Yes, a bunch of the arguments always, yeah, but we have 8 million more people insured. And then you say, yeah, but everyone's paying more who had insurance before and is hurting those middle class families, right? And that took how many years to implement? 3. So it took 3 years to implement it, and in 4 years we were able to realize how terrible it was. And so I guess like a little bit of foresight on like what's going to happen when he imposes a tariff on China and the goods that China sends to us skyrocket by 40% or 30%, or they threaten it, and so China does some mess with their currency so that it threatens our economy. There are reactions to every action, and I'm curious on, as a limited government person, where you feel like government should do the least needed, enumerated powers of the Constitution. How do you have confidence in these decisions that are so directly impacting American markets and freedoms?
See, I, again, don't have confidence necessarily in the decisions. Like I said, I agree with Ted Cruz on policy more than I agree with Donald Trump on policy. I have confidence in the person. I have confidence in his ability to get the things done. Which again, I know could sound really annoying and make me sound like an idiot.
No. Hey, Stuart, I got a question. Do you feel like that's the typical Trump supporter? Like you've talked to other people who support Trump and they're either kind of on the same page as you, or do you feel like you're this outlier where your beliefs may differ from the core base of Trump?
Well, I think the majority of Trump supporters have no idea what they're talking about. To be 100% honest.
Well, we can agree on that.
Well, okay, so I mean,
which is why I actually thought of you when we asked, do we know any Trump supporters? Because I knew you could have a civil conversation and not try to punch me through the phone.
I mean, I can get by with like when Trump gets maybe when he gets like 20 to 30% of the Republican vote in these primaries. I'm like, okay, maybe there's just a bunch of idiots. But in our state, in Arizona, he got 48% of the Republican votes, and that number blows my mind because I'm like, okay, so if you're saying that you, a Trump supporter, think the majority of other Trump supporters are just like don't know what they're talking about, and then there's
crawling out of their trailer to go vote.
48% of Arizona Republicans are like don't know what they're talking about. That scares me.
I already knew that.
Yeah.
No, right, but then that he got the delegates for Arizona, right?
He's got the delegates for a lot of places, and
Right.
I mean, I can understand. So I mean, I know you've mentioned principles several times, and I think that's important. I think a lot of people should be more principled. I don't see that from Trump in regards to consistency. I feel like
feel?
we've talked about that before. The fact that he talks a big game about being pro-life, and then he mentions a good Supreme Court justice would be his sister, who wrote one of the most scathing. What circuit judge is she? She's out in the East Coast, but she's a federal judge, and she's written some decisions essentially backing abortion to birth and how it is a constitutional right. So it just seems very contradictory in a lot of stuff he says. I believe in free markets. Oh, but I'm going to impose tariffs, and I'm going to go after specific companies. I mean, he brought up specific companies, including Apple and Ford and some others that he wanted to attack specifically because they had plants overseas and in Mexico. I don't understand how that contradiction works.
So I don't either, but I'd have to point out there is one other company I know of that has factories in Mexico.
What's that?
I believe Trump ties are made in Mexico.
That's been the joke, but you are correct.
Yeah, okay.
I do think it's just interesting how it seems to me that I see him talk out of both sides of his mouth. You had an opportunity in a debate where they brought up a specific point about high educated immigrants, where he on his website said that they were dangerous to the American economy and American jobs. Very nationalistic opinion. I'm not surprised at all by the statement on his website. But then when asked about it during a debate, he said, I changed my mind. He literally used the words, I changed my mind, just on the fly.
Yep.
Wasn't changed on his website, wasn't any kind of specific statement beforehand. I've changed my mind. And I feel like it could literally change every day. And you're voting for, if I were voting for Trump, I would feel like I don't know if I would be voting for the same person a week later.
See, maybe not the same policies I wouldn't know if I was voting for, but I know I'm voting for the same person.
So
I'm voting for him.
I guess my main question then is, if the principles are so important on you want someone who can get things done, and you believe in the Constitution, you believe in limited government, but what if the guy who can get things done gets the wrong things done? Barack Obama got a lot of things done.
It's true.
But none of which I agree with.
Fair point.
I would rather have someone get nothing done, and have it.
I would too.
And have it be better off. I would rather Barack Obama have gotten nothing done. And frankly, before that, I would rather have had half of, probably 75% of what Bush did in his second term not be done.
I actually, by the way, have thought several times that maybe we should vote George Washington back in. Okay,
Hey.
and not a living George Washington, but the actual dead one.
Because then he can't do anything for 4 years.
Yeah. It's just it's a table veto or the pocket veto for every bill. And it's just like, you know what? That's better than getting the wrong things done.
And like Coolidge said, it's better to throw out a bad law than it is to pass a good one. And I feel like it's one of those situations where, as I listen to Trump, I worry that he will get things done, and those things will be the exact wrong things. tariffs, going after specific companies. His tax plan on his website, it's a progressive tax system, and it's just as complicated.
Not to mention the one that, and I gotta impose this real quick. The one that he mentioned back in 1999, a 14.25% wealth tax on all those with a net worth over 10 million. A wealth tax, by the way, would be the money in their bank account.
They would just go take it.
And not just the money in the bank account, but a tax on houses that they own, a tax on cars. He said, yeah, it'll raise 5.7 trillion. It'll pay off the debt. So, but the thing is, you already own the house, you already own the car, and if you don't have the tax money to pay for it, you have to sell off some of that stuff. So literally just taking money straight out of their bank account that's already been taxed. So
When did he support that?
this was a while back.
in
This
the
was
90s?
1999. So hey, you know, everybody can have a turning point. But the thing is, he's already said he still supports a progressive tax plan. So
Right. I mean, the tax plan is the only thing. Like, I was clicking around on his website again, trying to figure out what does this guy stand for, and it was one of the few things that was actually detailed out. And it was 10%, 20%, or 10. I don't remember the actual. It was like 10, 20, 30, 0.
I think it was. Well,
It's
I do
laid
know
out.
it starts
It's
zero
it's
for the first
progressive,
20,000.
right? But he wants to get there's some stuff that he says like get rid of the death tax.
I agree with that, for sure.
The corporate tax is reduced to 0. Like there's some actual like detailed specifics.
Mm-hmm.
But one of my biggest things like about Trump, and I think maybe this is Stuart, what you like about him is what I don't like, is when you're saying he can go in there, he can get stuff done. I think that definitely taps into and I don't know that I would use this word, but a lot of people criticize Trump for being a bully, right? They say, oh, he's just a bully. He just, throws his weight around all the time. And I don't necessarily care if someone's got that kind of personality, but when you look at what he's done in business, okay, so building these big businesses, being successful, using his power to make himself and the people around him successful and grow his wealth and his power, I don't want that to happen with the government. I don't want the government to have
run
more
like a
power,
big
have
business?
more power, be bigger, have more say. Like the stuff that he wants to do, I want the government to do less. And when I look at you're just talking about economically, right? Like small government, lower taxes, these are all good things. I look at Ted Cruz, and Ted Cruz is the only one I've seen actually say like, I want to shrink the government. I want to abolish the IRS.
Yeah, he wants to get rid of actual departments, and he's named those departments.
I haven't seen Trump say anything about reducing the size of government. I've seen him say he's going to use the government to do X, Y, and Z. But that just scares me because when Trump's gone, and maybe Trump goes in there and he does all awesome stuff, and I love it. And I'm like, yes, this is great. I got lower taxes. We've got a better economy because Trump threw his weight around and he bullied his way and got all these things done. I don't want the next person having that power to do those things. What I want someone to go in there and say, we're just going to get government out of it. We're going to reduce these things. We're going to minimize spending. We're going to cut taxes, get out of it, and the free market can figure it out. That will be the solution. It's not negotiating weird taxes and tariffs on China and imports and all this stuff and playing the market and playing these games that always bite us in the butt every time, right? You play with the system and it bites you back. No, just take a step back. And that's why I can't support Trump in that, trying to find, bad stuff about Ted Cruz and good stuff about Trump. And I just keep coming to the same conclusion that he wants the power of the government to do what he thinks is best. And I don't want a candidate who has that mentality.
And I think one of the other things is when you use the government to try to do what's right, it turns into like the 1890s New York gang scene. You know what I'm talking about? Where the biggest gang in the city is the police, and then there's other gangs, and that's how it would be. The U.S. would be the bigger gang, and the other countries would be the smaller gang, and we'd be fighting each other.
I think Daniel
For sure.
Day-Lewis was a significant gangster. In that.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm talking about when it comes to, if you look at how it went in the past when the progressive era first started, and it became this nationalistic perspective for a while. And they were pushing this idea that, we need to protect America in regards to economics, rather than saying Americans can protect themselves. They need to make their own economic decisions. That's when we started to really fight an economic war internationally to try to bring more jobs back to America. And it turned into the Great Depression and the Second World War. And that's my concern. Because if you bully another country, they're not going to, okay, I'm really sorry. Especially when the country is the biggest holder of our debt or it supplies a vast majority of our goods. I think they could just turn around and be like, "Oh, you think you're tough? Sorry, we don't even trade with Russia on your currency anymore." Like, what do we do?
Let me ask, sort of wrap all of that up into a question for Stuart here.
Okay.
So you have a president or you want a president that's going to get things done. Finance and economics is one of your most important issues. Probably a good thing.
Of course.
It's real quick before I finish my question. You like progressive tax or flat tax?
You know, I think if we were starting the country over, I would have a flat tax. If we were completely starting over. But I think having a flat tax coming from the tax plan that we have now and the tax system that we have now, I think it would be a disaster. At least for a couple of years until we fought ourselves out of it. But I think it would be a complete disaster for a flat tax right now.
Okay, so resets are always hard. You will have some wrinkles in there, and that's totally true. But you do think
I'm all for it if I can just fire H&R Block. if it means I can stop going to see those people every year,
okay, well,
I am all for it.
Then I'll ask you this: how about the 14.25% wealth tax we talked about earlier? Support it or against it?
I can support it in our current tax system. I can support it.
Wait, no. Do you like what Jeremy said, where it's like you were taxed on your assets every year, right?
No, it wasn't everything.
Yeah.
It was one time, 14.25%, in addition to every tax that they've already paid that year. The government's going to take
like the 2016 wealth tax.
Yes, the 2016 wealth tax. We're going to take your net worth, right, and we're going to tax 14.25% of that.
Jokes on them. Student loan debt makes my net worth negative numbers. They're going to give me money.
It's only over $10 million anyway.
So a one-time tax in theory, but we know that they're going to do it again.
One-time taxes never happen.
Exactly. They're going to do it again. But in theory, it's a one-time thing.
So in theory, it's a one-time thing.
And
so
Stuart,
you think it would be a good idea to take 14.25% of, say, I don't know, your boss's bank account?
Please say no.
See, I hate how liberal I'm sounding right now.
I do too, Stuart.
Because I think you're smarter than that, man.
Speak to me, man. Come on. You've been good up to this point. Come back to the light.
Back to the light.
And I mean,
sorry. I think the current tax system is so bastardized that
I agree with
I
you.
think that
I don't think
that I don't-
bastardizing it more is the answer.
Let him go.
that I don't think that I believe in simplifying the tax code. I 100% believe in that.
Okay.
But I think completely abolishing the system that we have now to replace it with a flat tax it would be a disaster.
But wait. We're talking about the wealth tax. So not taxing the money before it gets to their bank account, not doing the income tax at the end of the year, but literally the government's reaching in. I'm taking 14.25% of what's in your bank account. Oh, and not just what's in your bank account, but also you have to pay for 14.25% of what your house is worth, what your cars are worth, what that cabin that you own up in the woods is worth, what the boat is worth, the RV.
Oh, of course not.
Okay, so bad idea, yeah?
Yeah, of course not.
Okay, bad idea. The tariff, bad idea?
Not as a
depends on
negotiating
who-
tool, but an actual implementation.
As an implementation, bad idea?
As an implementation, yes.
Okay, so here's my biggest problem right here. Okay, so
Okay.
we've got a guy who's going to get things done. Economics is the biggest issue, but two of his big economic points you disagree with.
I disagree with the implementation of the tariff. I don't disagree with the threatening of the tariff, of using it as a negotiation tool. I don't agree with... I believe the tariff will just come around to bite us in the butt and make us pay more for the products coming over. I 100% agree with that. However, I don't think... Say that happens. Say the tariff gets implemented, and we have to pay more for our product. Now, the company is going to raise the prices, and we're going to have to pay more for our product. However, we're going to buy a lot less of that product. These are the things that are going to have to go through the thoughts of the company before moving their company to another country and trying to sell goods in the United States.
Okay, wait.
They're going to sell a lot.
So tariff as a negotiating tool. The last time we used tariff as a negotiating tool was the Smoot-Hawley tariff. It happened before the crash of 1929. The very mention of the tariff, a lot of modern economists agree, caused the crash of 1929. It didn't even become law until 1930. So the last time we threatened a tariff, we had the Great Depression.
Well, it's because the market's freaked out and they're like, oh no. And a lot of people pulled their money out of the investment market, and therefore investments couldn't happen in businesses, and the whole economy collapsed. And we know that the stock market crashed.
So is it really a good negotiating tool?
It depends on who's the negotiator. It depends on who is using it.
Okay, wait. Herbert Hoover was one of the last big businessmen that we elected. He was the Donald Trump of his time.
And he was quite a bully if you actually read some of the things that he wrote at the time.
But he was not Donald Trump. See, he didn't have the same, he may have been a big businessman, yes, but he did not have the same history and the same bring up as Donald Trump. Donald Trump has made a living off of being a negotiator. He hasn't made a living off of being a quote-unquote businessman. He's made a living off of being a negotiator and working his way around things.
So you like that he's been able to like negotiate his way out of, you mentioned bankruptcies and such. How about the fact that there were bankruptcies? Is there an excuse for that? Do you not really pay much attention to that?
There are 4 Chapter 11 bankruptcies, meaning that he paid it all off afterwards. But in all the things that he's done, like I said, he takes bad projects and he flips them. 4 times it didn't work. 4 times he went into bankruptcy with the projects that he tried to flip. He has taken on hundreds, if not thousands, of projects that have worked. And he makes a living off of taking cruddy projects, which is, if America's not a cruddy project right now, economically speaking, then I don't know what is. Flipping it on its head to make a profit.
But what do we have in the end? Even if we're making a profit, do we have a freer society, or do we have just more money but less freedom? Like, I'm trying to see what kind of situation are we in relationship to our government after the fact.
I understand that, and I think, let's say Trump is elected for a second term. Say everything goes great, and he's elected for a second term. With the way that he's talked about... Okay. Fair.
Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
Let's say it's the end of his first term, okay, as president. Say he gets elected, and he implements all these things, and it's starting to work. With the way that he's talked about politicians, and the way that he is said that they're numbskulls and things like that, do you really think he would leave? Because he has an investment in America, right? He has businesses here. He has an investment. He wants the country to do well.
He's got businesses in a lot of places, but he does have a lot of business here.
Yes, but he has the headquarters of his business is in America. And he has an investment in the United States. He wants it to do well. Do you really think that he would leave the country in a place where these numbskull politicians could take full control and have more power than he did coming in?
I
don't think he has a choice. I think if he takes power in a position to do good, it will become justified just because of the history of the Supreme Court hearings and the history of executive action. Whatever he does, there's no way to undo it.
I don't
without
think he'll have to
changing
use a lot of
seats.
executive action. I don't think he'll have to use. See, that's another thing. I think we're in a place where we've gotten used to the fact that if the president can't get something done, then he uses executive action, and then he gets it done. But I think that that's taking negotiation completely off the table. And I think Trump, as a good negotiator, which we can all agree he's a good negotiator, can we?
No.
I don't know enough about
Sorry.
about his actual business dealings, but I'll take your word for it. Sure.
Okay. Well, he's a good negotiator, and negotiation is going to be with other countries and things like that. But it's also going to be across the aisle. It's also going to be with Democrats, and I don't think he'll need to use executive power. I think he'll be able to, like I've said before, get things done, which he's proven to be able to do. And whether or not we know, like what he gets done or not, he will get things done. And the things that he's saying that he will do in the campaign, and if he gets those things done, I will be happier for it. I will be happier if we have good trade agreements with China. I'll be happy if Mexico pays for the wall. I'll be happy if all these things happen. So that's what I'm basing my vote on. Is I believe that I personally believe, and whether or not it's backed or not, I personally believe that he will get the things that he says done. And I don't believe he's playing a game. I don't believe he's a closet Democrat. I don't believe he's running so that Hillary will win. I don't believe any of that. I believe that what he says he wants to get done, he wants to get done. And I believe he will get it done. So that's what I'm basing my vote off of.
Okay. I take him at his word. I don't have any major issue with that. His history suggests otherwise, but you're going to take him at his word. That's fine. Here's what I've been... The 4 bankruptcies as a symbol of him being a good negotiator has bothered me each time he said it, and I didn't really realize why until this time. And that is that bankruptcy is actually a forced negotiation. Wouldn't a good negotiator be able to negotiate the debt without having to go through the bankruptcy process?
Yes. However, when he's put into that situation and put into the situation of getting in a forced, because he was running a casino with one of his bankruptcies. He was running a casino, and it plummeted because it did well, and then it plummeted afterwards. And he was forced to be put into bankruptcy because, and you have to remember, he was also running a football team. He was also building buildings in Manhattan. He was also doing several other things. But he was forced to be put into bankruptcy, and once he got into the bankruptcy, I think he owed somewhere north of, I think it was $200 million, and he brought it down to, I think it was in the 20s. I think it was in the $20 million range, and he paid off the $20 million. If that's not a sign of a good negotiator, I don't know.
But
I don't know what is.
That's using the courts. The courts do that so that we can, give you another shot at the American dream. It's not Trump as a good negotiator. That's the court system. Why couldn't he negotiate that down if he was great? He could have done that without the court system and done it on his own. But instead, he basically forces his debtor into an all or nothing situation and just says you just have to take less or I'll give you nothing.
I mean,
exactly.
But that's using the laws of the country. That's anybody.
You can change the law.
Anybody in this room can do that. If we're in a big business situation and we need to declare bankruptcy, we'd put them in an all or nothing situation. That's not a sign of being a good negotiator. It's just that we have good bankruptcy laws in America.
Mm-hmm. And actually, bankruptcy is much, much easier when you're super rich. The people that I've known 2 people that had to go through bankruptcy. One was broke, and it ruined his life. And one was his third company that he had built up, and it did absolutely nothing to him because he knew that no matter what, even if he's like, well, I'm not going to pay you, well, I'm going to ruin your credit. And, well, okay, I don't care. I have millions of dollars in my bank account already. It doesn't matter. So, I I see what Jeremy's saying, and I also see what you're saying. I don't know enough about his deal making to know whether or not he's a great negotiator. But I do know from speaking to people that bankruptcy is where you go when you need somebody to help you negotiate, because you have a judge there who actually helps you negotiate.
I can see your point there.
So
I can.
Oh, sorry, Stuart.
Not,
No, we're just we're getting close to our hour mark, so we're gonna have to wrap this
Stuart,
up.
hang with us for a whole hour.
I know,
Dude, I'm
You
glad
know
he
what? Props,
did.
man.
But
Props.
I wanted, Stuart, I want to give you this one final thing to think about, because I will buy into Donald Trump's a good businessman. I think he is. I think he's got the wealth to. Yeah, no,
No.
Well, okay, he's got money. Okay, so he's been successful,
He inherited a lot of money.
but he's also used that to make more money.
He didn't.
But if he had put in his inheritance in the S&P 500 and not touched it, he would be twice as rich now. That's a fact.
I'll dispute that.
So
Well,
in any
dispute the
case-
economists that have actually come up with that. I didn't make that number up, but go ahead, Strauss.
Well, let's say like he's got buildings with his name on it. He you know, like he says, he's a winner, right? That I'll give you that. And I think as a businessman, sure, you know, he's made money, he's employed people and done
become a celebrity. People know
Yeah.
who he is. Yeah.
cool. I'm all for that. I just would ask you to kind of question, Stuart, just if that's the kind of person that you want in government. Because government, as much as people say, oh, they should run government like a business and not spend so much, government inherently isn't a business, because you get the money regardless, right? Taxes come in, you have the money, you spend it on whatever.
Yeah. There's no filing for bankruptcy here.
And with what you're talking about, what you envision the perfect function of government being smaller, being limited, less power, more freedom, more liberty, that kind of stuff. I don't think you want somebody like Trump in that position, because I think the two things are completely at odds with one another. And I think you would want someone in there who says, I'm going to go in, it's too big, we're going to shrink things down, we're going to make things simpler, and we're going to get government out of all of this stuff, because that's what's causing a lot of these problems anyway. It's not the government like fixing the problem, it's the government backing out so that the problem can fix itself with the free market and the systems that we have in place. Because I do think, you know, Trump running a business, that's one thing. Yep, he can do a good job, or, you know, as Jeremy says, maybe not do a good job. But either way, I think that's a good area for him to be in. But I don't know that meshes so well with what I want the government to be and what I want the president to be doing.
Yes, and see, my thing with that, to kind of close, is I believe, like I said in the Constitution, I believe it's run by the people and for the people. I believe in a government that is completely people-run. And I don't believe in a political class. I don't believe that you have to be in this political class in order to be able to run the government. I don't believe that. I believe that the government is employed by the people. And I believe that my main thing, like I said, I was totally anti-Trump too. And my main thing is against the Republican Party. My main issue is, and I'm choosing to back Trump based on my issue with the Republican Party.
See, if it were, hold on, sorry to interrupt you, Stuart, but if it were any other election, I'd be right there with you if there wasn't a candidate like Ted Cruz.
Who has been fighting the
if
system,
if it was Trump and Jeb Bush and Chris Christie and John McCain, why not throw him in there, right? If it was those guys, I probably would be with you and saying, you know, Trump, like, I hate the guy, but like compared to the Republicans, sure, let's, you know, stick it to him. But I think that candidate is Ted Cruz, because you even said it's not like you're you know, an ignorant voter. Like you said that Ted Cruz is not even really liked by his own party. He's kind of been this outsider, not going with the flow of the Republicans. So that's why I'm just. You even said that you have more principles aligned with Ted Cruz. You just think that Trump can get stuff done. It's kind of an interesting perspective that I don't know that I can wrap my mind around it. My mind head around it fully.
Yeah, I completely understand, and I completely I agree with a lot of what you guys have said, and like I said, I do agree with Ted Cruz more on certain policy issues, and I agree with him more than I do Donald Trump. However, I think Donald Trump knows better than I do. And I think that Ted Cruz has been the anti-establishment, kind of establishment guy for 4 years. And he's taken it to the government and taken it to the RNC and done all that. But now the RNC has kind of gotten behind Ted Cruz, whether it be with.
I don't think they have a choice.
They don't know.
That's what they did with that's what they did with Ronald Reagan. Right?
Everybody was against Reagan till the last minute when he was the last choice, and then they were for him. It's the same thing going on here. And I have to correct myself because I actually found the article on Yahoo. It was actually twice as much. So I don't know if I said that. His net worth would be $20 billion instead of $10 billion had he walked away in 1982 and simply invested all of his money in the S&P 500 and not touched it. Twice as rich.
Well, how much did that article say that he inherited from his father?
The inheritance isn't here, but they're saying that his net worth at the time was $200 million.
He inherited $40 million from his father.
Okay, so he grew it from 40 to 200. Good job. He could have grown it from 200 million to 20 billion had he put it in the S&P and walked away.
But you agree that he took 40 million, made it 200 million. Okay, he took that. But the money that he inherited from his father, the $40 million, you could say that for any rich person. You could say that for.
Well, not really, because a lot of rich people made much bigger risks because they didn't inherit anything. Now they built it in their garage. I mean, Steve Jobs sat in a garage and made computers with a soldering iron.
You could say that for Steve Jobs after he made Apple. You could say he's a billionaire. He could just invest his money into SRP
But he never stopped making billions upon billions. I mean, I guess my point is that, like, a lot of people find that kind of as a crazy argument, considering $40 million back in, 87? When did he inherit that?
It's saying 82 here. I'm just sort 82? Of scanning. Sorry, it's a long article.
You know, see, I mean, the risk... I took this $4 million dump heap condo and turned it into a $60 million dump heap condo. It's just like, yeah, you made a lot of money, but what risk did you actually incur when you're sitting on a pile of money behind you and you could fail over and over again and not worry about it?
And money really compounds when it's that high of a figure anyway. I'm not seeing a growth from 40 to 200 as
it doesn't mean he didn't find success. He did.
It was success. Yeah, 40 to 200. That's success. Yeah, it's multiplied by 5. I can do math.
As opposed to the $10,000 investment Steve Jobs started with and the $1 billion enterprise that he had when he died. It's just a little different, I guess. And I think you're right. There are a lot of extremely wealthy people out there who started with large investment capital, either inherited to them or given to them or investors gave it to them. I do agree with you on that point. And you know what? Like, he took more risks than maybe other people. And you can't knock him for that when you have the capital behind you to take those risks. Mm-hmm. Good for him. He reinvested it into a business and didn't just sit on it. But I don't think that equates to equaling a good president of the United States. I think somebody who understands economics and understands business is important. And so I guess I agree with you there, Stuart. But you can't treat the government like something that you can take the risks on like you can a business when you have 30 other businesses that are succeeding. It's like those 4 bankruptcies, he didn't care about those. In all reality, it doesn't matter. Like, those didn't matter. There was no risk there because he was successful elsewhere and he had investment, or he had money enough to fail in those places. But with the government, you can't do that, especially in a country where we're struggling so much already economically.
I can understand and I agree with you.
I would love for him to be the governor of New York first.
Yeah, like Reagan switched from being a liberal to being a Republican, and he was the governor of California first. Let's let him be the governor of a liberal crap state,
And see if he can
and
flip
see
it.
if he can flip it. Right? Flip it like he's done with his real estate investments. Right, Stuart?
Well, I'm willing to take, whether it be a good idea or not, I'm willing to take the risk that he can flip the United States.
No.
I am.
All right. I think, Stuart, you went all 5 rounds beautifully. Man, I really appreciate it. I'm grateful for your friendship. I'm glad you joined us on the podcast. It was actually a lot of fun.
Yeah, it really was, Stuart.
Yeah,
I hope you're walking away from it realizing that, Three-Headed Eagle is a bunch of awesome studs and that we wouldn't steer you wrong.
No kidding. Anytime you're in town,
No,
man, you're more than welcome to join us again. But we got to wrap things up. Thanks, guys, for listening to the podcast. You can always check us out on iTunes and Stitcher, and we will catch you next time.
Thanks, Stuart.
Ideas, inspiration, information. Three-headed eagle.
Stuart, are you still there, bro?
Yeah.
Wow, you stuck with us through the outro. That's pretty good. Hey, can you do me one quick favor, bro?
Yeah.
Can you just scream Trump as loud as you can real quick?
Wait, one more time?
Just scream Trump as loud as you can. Yeah. Okay. That's what I predicted you would say for your answers. 'Cause that's what most Trump supporters do when you're like, so how do you feel about the economy? They're like, Trump. Thanks for that, bro. Have
Such
a good
good
one.
guy. Such a good guy.
See you, Stuart.
No, that was a lot of fun. Thanks, guys.
See ya.
All right, bye.